There are moments in history that begin with celebration and end in silence, and the distance between those two states can be terrifyingly short. On May 18th of 1896 in Moscow, what was meant to be a joyful public celebration for the coronation of Tsar Nicholas II became one of the deadliest crowd disasters in known history. The Khodynka field, chosen as the site for a grand gathering of people filled with anticipation long before the sun had fully risen. People came in enormous numbers, drawn by the promise of food and gifts and a rare chance to feel connected to the imperial power. The mood at the start of the day was hopeful and excited and filled with expectation. Just days earlier, Nicholas II and his wife Alexandra had been crowned emperor and empress of Russia. The coronation itself had been a formal and controlled event, steeped in, of course, tradition and ceremony, as such things would be. But what followed was meant to be something different. The public ceremony and celebration in Khodynyak Field was designed to bring people into the moment, to allow ordinary citizens to take part in the grandeur of this new reign. Structures were set up across the field, including buffets and entertainment areas and spaces for distributing gifts. These gifts were simple, sure, but they were meaningful and they were consisting of food and commemorative items. It included a cup that would serve as a lasting reminder of the occasion. This was a very big deal. Khodynyak Field itself, however, was far from ideal as a venue for such a massive gathering. This was not a smooth and open plain. This was uneven ground. It was marked by ditches and gullies and depressions, and they created kind of some hidden hazards beneath the surface. These features might not have posed a serious problem for small gatherings, but for the enormous crowd that would assemble, they would become deadly. Despite this, preparations continued, and little was done to address the risks posed by this uneven terrain. By the night before the event, people had already begun arriving. They came from across Moscow and even beyond. Many were eager to secure a good position and ensure that they would receive these promised gifts. As the hours passed, the crowd grew steadily larger, of course. But by morning, early estimates suggest that as many as 500,000 people had gathered on the field. The number was far beyond what the available police force could effectively manage. Approximately 1,800 officers were present, but they were vastly outnumbered, of course. As the crowds waited, rumors began to spread. Some people claimed that there would not be enough food or drink for everyone. Others said that the commemorative cups contained gold coins hidden inside. What a rude and mean and cruel thing to do, looking back and knowing what happened afterward. These rumors moved quickly through the densely packed crowd, and with them came a shift to behavior. What had been a patient and expectant gathering began to change. People started to push forward, eager to secure their share before the supplies ran out. They wanted what they believed was theirs. The sense of urgency intensified, and the pressure within the crowd increased. And then the situation broke completely. The movement of such a large crowd cannot easily be controlled once panic begins. And as people surged forward, those at the front were forced toward the uneven parts of the field. Many were pushed into ditches and depressions where they fell, and they were unable to get up again. The force of the crowd behind them continued to press forward, and the result was a crush. Individuals were trapped, unable to move or breathe. The pressure from all sides made escape impossible. Within a short period of time, what had been a celebration turned into a scene of chaos and tragedy. Some of this might sound familiar to those of you who might be familiar with what happened in South Korea just a few short years ago. But what makes this event especially disturbing is that it did not unfold in a way that was immediately visible to everyone present. The field was vast and the crowd was enormous. While thousands were caught in this crush, others nearby remained unaware of the full extent of what was really happening. Some continued to move about, to collect their gifts and to take part in these festivities and eat their food and drink their drinks. But the scale of the disaster was not instantly understood by the entire gathering. By the time the situation was finally recognized and assistance could be organized, the damage had already been done. The official numbers are staggering. More than 1,000 people were killed that day, with some estimates placing the death toll even higher. The number of injured ranged into the thousands, with figures varying wildly depending on the source. Many of the victims were found in the low areas of the field where they had been trapped and suffocated. The combination of crowd pressure and uneven terrain proved to be fatal for those who could not escape it. In the aftermath, efforts were made to manage the situation, but the response raised serious questions. The field was cleared and the visible signs of the tragedy were removed before the main public appearance of the Emperor-Empress later that same day. When Nicholas II appeared before the crowd, many people present were still unaware of what had even taken place earlier. The continuation of the scheduled events created a sense of complete disconnect between the reality of the disaster and the official proceedings. Later that evening, a formal ball was held at the French embassy. Nicholas II attended the event despite finally having been informed of the tragedy. This decision would have lasting consequences for how he was perceived, of course. Many viewed his attendance as a sign of poor judgment or indifference to the suffering that had occurred earlier that day. And while the emperor did not provide very much, he did provide aid to the victims' families, and he took administrative action against some officials. And the image of him attending a celebration on the same day as such a disaster left a really deep impression. The Khodynka tragedy became one of the defining early moments of Nicholas II's reign. It contributed to a growing sense of distrust and dissatisfaction among the public. The nickname Nicholas the Bloody would later be associated with him, and while it was reinforced by future events, Khodynka was one of the first moments that shaped that particular perception. The tragedy demonstrated how quickly public confidence can be shaken and how important the response to a crisis can be in determining a leader's legacy. Writers and observers of the time were deeply affected by what happened. Leo Tolstoy himself, one of Russia's most prominent authors, wrote about the tragedy in a work that sought to capture its human impact. Accounts from witnesses described the confusion, the fear, and the sudden realization that something had gone terribly wrong. These accounts provide a powerful reminder of the human cost behind the numbers. The Khodynka tragedy also stands as an early example of the dangers associated with large public gatherings when proper planning and crowd management are not in place. We've had these warnings before, and I'm sure we'll have these warnings again. This is by far not going to be the end of this kind of a disaster. The combination of poor site selection, insufficient control measures, and the rapid spread of rumors created conditions that led directly to this disaster. It highlights the importance of understanding crowd behavior and the need for careful organization when dealing with large numbers of people like this. And looking back, the event can be seen as both a tragedy and a warning. It reveals vulnerabilities in how public events were managed and exposed weaknesses in the response of those in authority. It also serves as a reminder that even in moments intended to unify and celebrate, they can carry significant risks if they're not properly controlled. The Khodynka field, once chosen as a place of celebration, became associated with loss and failure. The events of May 18th of 1896 remain a powerful example of how quickly circumstances can change and how devastating the consequences can be when they do. The story continues to be studied not only for its historical significance, but also for the lessons it offers about planning and responsibility and the management of the large crowds. So now I want to hear from you in the comments. When leaders are faced with a tragedy during a public celebration, what matters more in shaping their legacy? Their immediate response in that moment, or the actions they take afterward to address the consequences. Throw out a couple of examples, too, of times that you've seen great leaders or mediocre leaders even doing things that didn't paint them in the best of lights. And if you enjoy stories like this, as always, make sure you follow the History Happens Facebook page for more deep dives into history's most fascinating moments. And subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Remember, every subscriber helps, and I do 100% of the work myself. Thank you for watching.